So instead we call these variables on both sides. So you can't add negative 3x plus 2x. So remember, to get them on one side, you're either going to be using addition or subtraction. You're going to use the opposite sign of the variable you're moving. Most of you like to get your variable on the left side, so you typically get rid of the one on the right side. So the one on the right side is positive, so to get rid of it, I have to have the opposite sign, so I'm going to subtract. So remember, these are not division bars, okay? I was just showing you that they both had an x. So what we're going to do, I'm going to rewrite the problem so you don't think of that as division. I'm going to subtract away that 2x from both sides. So 2x minus 2x cancels. So now my variable's on the right side. These are now like terms because they're on the same side. So in my calculator, I would put negative 3 minus 2 to find that those combine to get negative 5x. Bring down my minus 8, then my equal sign, and what's left on the right side now is just a 7. So now this is just a two-step equation. We're going to undo the subtraction of 8 by adding 8 to both sides. So we now have negative 5x equals 7 plus 8, which is 15. And I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing by negative 5. So these negative 5's cancel, leaving me with x equals 15 divided by negative 5, which is negative 3. So again, on this one, these are not like terms. They're on opposite sides of the equal sign. This is a problem where a lot of you get confused because, again, you always get rid of the one on the right side. And so most of you would get rid of this by subtracting 27y from both sides. Remember, don't put minus 27. Don't forget it has a y attached. So it's negative 27y. So here's where some of you get confused. I'm going to draw my line for my two sides of the equation. So in my calculator, I can put 15 minus 27 to find out that that is a negative 12y. Bring down that plus 12, and on this side, we have 0. Some of you are just moving that 12 to the other side, and you cannot do that. That plus 12 is on the left side of the equation. When we took away the 27y over here, we're left with 0. So now we're going to undo that addition by subtracting 12 from both sides. So we get negative 12y equals 0 minus 12 is negative 12. We'll undo that multiplication using division. We'll divide both sides by negative 12. These cancel because they equal 1. So we have 1y equals negative 12 divided by negative 12 also cancels and equals 1. So my y is 1. All right, so then on the next section, these are multi-step equations with all of the things that we had learned so far this semester. So this is the order that you're going to do things in. The very first thing you're going to do is get rid of the parentheses by using the distributive property. So on this one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute the negative 2 times the x and times the negative 5. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Remember, a negative times a negative is positive. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. I'm just going to bring the rest of the problem down. Some of you are trying to skip this. You cannot skip steps. So we're going to bring all of the rest of the equation down. So we did the first step. We used the distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. The next thing we're going to do is to combine like terms. And remember, they have to be on the same side of the equal sign. So I can combine this negative 2x with this 6x, but I can't combine that 5x with them. It's on the other side. So in my calculator, I would put negative 2 plus 6, which is positive 4, so I have 4x. I can also combine the 10 and the negative 7, but not the negative 1 that's on the other side. 10 minus 7 is what I would put in my calculator, and it's positive 3, so I would put plus 3. On this side, we don't have any like terms, so I'm just going to bring the 5x minus 1 down into the problem. The third thing is to get your variable on one side. So remember, this is where most of you like to get rid of the one on the right side. And remember, you're always going to use addition or subtraction to get the variable on one side. So if you want to get rid of this positive 5x, you're going to subtract it away. Remember, it's not minus 5, it's minus 5x. And we're doing the same thing on the other side, minus 5x. So now we don't have an x on the right side anymore. These are like terms. I would put in my calculator 4 minus 5 and get negative 1. So that's negative 1x. Bring down the plus 3, my equal sign, and what's left on the right side, which is a negative 1. Remember, if there's not anything left there, you would put 0. So now we have a two-step equation. Remember, you always undo the addition or subtraction first. So we're undoing addition using subtraction. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So now we have negative 1x equals negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. And then we undo the multiplication or division. This is multiplication, so we divide both sides by negative 1. So x equals negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4. So we're going to do the same thing on this next example. We're going to begin by getting rid of the parentheses. We have 2 sets of parentheses, so we have to distribute twice. The first time we're distributing a 3 times the x and the 7. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 7 is positive 21. Remember, this negative sign is a negative 1, so that's what I'm distributing times the 5x and the negative 2. So negative 1 times 5x is negative 5x. And negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. A negative times a negative is positive. I also have another set of parentheses on the other side, so I'm distributing that negative 4 times the x and the negative 3. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. Again, be careful with those signs. Negative times negative is positive. And bring down that positive 5 as well. So the next thing we're doing is looking for like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign. So look on the left side first. I have a 3x and a negative 5x. So I would put in my calculator 3 minus 5 and find that that's negative 2x. I also have a 21 and a 2 that I can add. 21 plus 2 is 23. I have like terms on the other side as well. I can combine this 12 with this 5. 12 plus 5 is 17. So I'd have negative 4x plus 17. So now that I have combined all my like terms, I want my variable on one side. So I'm going to get rid of the one on the right side. It's negative. So to get rid of it, I'm going to add this time. So I'm adding not 4, but 4x to both sides of the equation. So now I don't have an x on the right side anymore. On the left side, I have negative 2 plus 4, which is positive 2x. Bring down that plus 23, and I'm left with 17 on the right side. So now I just have a two-step equation. Remember, we undo addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to undo the addition of 23 by subtracting 23 from both sides. So now I have 2x equals 17 minus 23, which is negative 6. And now I can undo the multiplication or division. We have multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x equals negative 6 divided by 2, which is negative 3. All right, then we come to what we just learned. This is the most recent thing we've learned, and that's fractional equations. So remember, the very first thing you're going to do is get rid of the fractions first. You're going to multiply all of the terms by the least common multiple of the denominators. If you only have one fraction, all you have to do is multiply all the terms by that number in the denominator. So in the first one, we only have one fraction. The number that is in the denominator is a 4. So I'm going to multiply all of my terms, the first term, the second term, and the third term, by 4. So I would have 4 times 2x gives me 8x. This 4, remember, cancels out that 4 in the denominator. So don't multiply 4 times 3. That 4 cancels out that 4 and leaves just plus 3. On the right side, 4 times 12 is 48. So now we're still following the same steps up here. It's just we don't have any parentheses, we don't have any like terms, and we don't have variables on both sides. It's just a two-step equation. So we're going to undo the addition of 3 by subtracting 3 on both sides. And we get 8x equals 48 minus 3 is 45. Then we undo the multiplication by dividing. We're going to divide both sides by 8. Now when you divide 45 by 8, you get a decimal. Remember, you can change that to a fraction by hitting Math. That's the button underneath the green one. And then enter twice. And it tells me it's just 45 over 8. So I would just say my answer x is 45 over 8. Now the second example has two fractions. So we have a 3 in the denominator and a 9 in the denominator. So remember, we want the least common multiple of 3 and 9. So if you list out the factors, or the multiples, not factors, of 3, and you list out the multiples of 9, you will see that the smallest number they have in common is a 9. So that's what I'm going to multiply both sides, both terms of my equation times. Now remember, this 9's in the numerator, this 3's in the denominator. So 3 divides into 9 3 times. So that's what I'm going to multiply by this numerator. So 3 times 1 gives me 3 on the right side. On the left side, sorry. On the right side, this 9 cancels out that 9. So there's nothing to multiply the 2x plus 5 by. It just stays 2x plus 5. Again, we don't have parentheses, we don't have like terms, and we don't have variables on both sides. So we begin by undoing the addition by using subtraction, subtracting 5 on both sides. I get 3 minus 5, which is negative 2, equals 2x. Undo the multiplication by dividing by 2. So x equals negative 2 divided by 2, which is negative 1. We have two fractions again in this one. My denominators are 2 and 4. So I'm going to list out the multiples of both of those numbers in order to find the smallest one that they have in common. And that is a 4. So that's what I'm going to multiply all the terms by. Here's a term. You only multiply this by 4 one time. The second term is 4x. It gets multiplied by 4. And then the other side of the equation has one term that's also being multiplied by 4. So in the first term, the denominator's 2. It divides into 4 2 times. So I have to distribute and multiply that 2 times both terms inside that numerator. So 2 times 3x gives me 6x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Don't forget to multiply the 4 times the second term of 4x, which gives me 16x. And on the right side, this 4 cancels out the 4 in the denominator, leaving me with just my numerator, which is 14. Now, this one does not have any parentheses, but it does have like terms. Notice you have a 6x and a 16x. I can add 6 and 16 and make that 22x on the right side. Don't forget the minus 8. And on the other side, we still have 14, so you bring that down. Now it's just a two-step equation. We undo subtraction by addition, add 8 to both sides. So I get 22x equals 14 plus 8, which is also 22. Now I undo the multiplication using division. And so 22 divided by 22 cancels. That just equals 1x, which is just x. And 22 divided by 22 is 1. Now, this is a kind of different problem than we've looked at, but it's still the same concept. We only have one fraction, so we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply all our terms by what's in the denominator. This time it's an x, not a number, but I'm still going to multiply all 3 terms by x. So 3 times x is 3x. The second fraction, the x in the numerator, cancels out the x in the denominator and leaves me with just 10. No x on that one. And on the right side, 8 times x is 8x. We do not have any parentheses, but we do have variables on both sides. So remember, if you get rid of the one on the right, you're subtracting to get rid of it. You're subtracting 8x from both sides, which means you're left with 0 on the right side. 3x minus 8x, 3 minus 8 is negative 5, so that's negative 5x. Bring down the plus 10. Undo the addition using subtraction, so subtract 10 from both sides, leaving me with negative 5x equals negative 10. Then undo multiplication using division. Divide both sides by negative 5. So x equals negative 10 divided by negative 5, which is positive 2. Negative divided by negative is positive.